Welcome back to AOPB Roundup. I'm Ryan here with something a little different this week for the Series Roundup, a two-parter, and we're splitting up the North and the South divisions. We're getting the old playoff probabilities out from the model that we've been using, and we're looking at how every team in this league could win the championship for 2021. We're going to start in the South Division because the first team that we talk about, the team with the best odds to win the championship out of the South Division, is going to affect the playoff picture for the whole league, and that's the High Point Rockers. High Point's been hot this whole year, 22-13 the second half, 53-38 on the season. The Rockers just need to prevent a big losing streak because they're not only up one game in the division, they're also up about 4 games in the wild card, depending on who exactly is the team behind them at the time. So even if they lose the divisional lead, they have a good cushion to work with. The Rockers need their starters to stay consistent. They don't need perfection. They haven't all year needed perfection. They just need continued solid outings that are about 6 or more innings from guys like Cooper Casad, Bryce Hensley, and the Tommy gun Tommy Lawrence. Those starts, especially early in weeks when you know you have 4 or 5 games left before your next off day to refresh, that's going to be very key in keeping what has been a very well-preserved bullpen fresh for a playoff run. And it's also going to be key to making sure you're not stretching anybody thin sort of across the board or asking too much of that offense. High Point's offense and pitching have both hit their stride in the second half, making them a favorite down this stretch run. The Rockers hold an 82% chance to make the playoffs in our projection model, a 45% chance of reaching the championship, and a 25% chance of winning the championship. All of those are by far the best odds of any team that has not already clinched a playoff spot by winning the first half. Those odds are even better than a team that's already clinched a playoff berth by winning the first half, the Lexington Legends. So, in Lexington, we've got what has been, a real struggle. There's no other way to say it. It's been pretty rough over there. After flying out the gate, just the quick recap. Their first 40 games, the Legends cruised. Some of the best numbers across the league, one of the best starts we've seen. But they've stumbled since. So they clinched the first half title, but it wasn't pretty, and then they've been a league worst 13-22 in the second half. Now, how can they turn it around? Well, it starts with leaning into their strengths, which is their tremendous offense. Even while they've been struggling, that offense has been very good. In a league with wild offensive numbers, Lexington has still scored 0.7 runs per game more than any other team in this league. Lexington is obviously on the hunt for pitching right now, as their pitching has allowed about 3 runs more per game over their last 57 games than they did in their first 38 games. But Lexington really just needs to bomb-proof this pitching staff. No more blow-ups. They just cannot afford it. They need to position their pitching staff to eat up some innings, which is going to keep their bullpen solid and fresh. And then when playoff time comes, it's going to keep their offense in the game and let them do their thing, because considering they're scoring 7.7 runs per game right now, a chance is all this offense needs to get a win. Our projection model gives Lexington a 42% chance to reach the championship series, but only a 17.4% chance to win it, with all the uncertainty going with their pitching staff. Checking out our third South Division team, and it's a team that actually has the 4th best championship odds, so it's a pretty well-stacked South Division when it comes to that kind of thing. West Virginia has looked great in the second half. They're 21-14 after posting a really bad 22-36 first half. That was the worst record in the league in the first half by a full 4 games. However, because of that slow start, the Power are 6 games out of the wild card despite only being 1 game out of the division race. So they are going to need to find a way to win the South Division if they want to make the playoffs at this point. The Power's offense sits at the bottom of the league, scoring nearly a run less than league average and nearly a run and a half less than their divisional opponent's average. However, the bats have been getting hot at the right time. They're finding their spots to get some offense going, and the Power's pitching has settled into a real groove. Not a lot of big names, not like a lot of league leaders in these conversations from West Virginia, but just good, consistent team. Not a lot of easy at-bats. They work counts, they work pitchers. They're not very comfortable to face as a lineup, not many holes in it, and pitching-wise, they keep their boys in the ball game. The team does have a tendency of being a bit streaky, but if the Power can win the division with a day or two to spare, they can set up rested pitchers and get good production from guys like Martinez, Paredes, and Callaspo in their lineup. They have shown good enough bench play and bullpen depth that they really should be able to pull out some games late here. They are a very well put together team, and it's happened very quietly throughout the year with small additions being made, small little moves, and all of a sudden we're looking at West Virginia having one of the most complete rosters in the league. But they need to start beating the Rockers, because the Rockers have won about 2/3 of their matchups this season, and there's no better time to start doing that than the present, because they're about to play the first of 4 of their 7 remaining games against the Rockers this week in Charleston. The Power hold a 50% chance of reaching the playoffs right now. That could be very different after these 4 games this week. They have a 27% chance of reaching the championship series and a 15% chance of bringing home the championship at this time. Last but not least, well, actually least, in the South Division is Gastonia. They're the first of the long shots that we're going to talk about across these 2 videos. They have been trying to stem the tides that have caused their collapse over the past couple of weeks, but boy, is it going to be an uphill battle to get an Atlantic League title out of this. They'll either need to make up the 5.5 games to catch their division leader in the South, or about 4.5 games to catch the wild card leader. But that's only if the team leading their division is the Rockers and not the Power, because if the Rockers fall in the second, this is why we talked about them first, they're like 8.5 games above Gastonia in the wild card right now. So how can they make up this gap? Well, first of all, they need the Rockers to win the division, as weird as that sounds. Then they need to keep hitting. The team is capable of scoring over 10 runs any given night, but some nights they just go quiet. These nights they tend to be against better arms. They just don't manufacture runs. They can't put together multiple good at-bats in a row, getting guys around the bases on nights where they can't hit the ball out of the park. Beyond that, it's really in the lead up to the playoffs that they're going to have to figure out how this pitching staff is going to work, because I've talked about it on the channel before, I'm going to talk about it again, they have gassed out this pitching staff badly. They have very few arms left, and if they keep going back to them, they're going to be burned out in the next week or so, and then what's next? The question will be, can they make the comeback, and then what will they have left other than momentum once they reach the playoffs? Not only, by the way, do they need the Rockers to work with them, they also need the Ducks to win the division in the North, because if the Ducks don't win the division in the North, then there will be no wild card spot to speak of. So then you better have hoped that Gastonia did win the division, because that will be their only option. So Gastonia is really up against it, and you can see it in the playoff odds. They just have a 7% chance of reaching the playoffs, and I think that's actually a bit favorable. I think the model's a little bit late or a little bit optimistic when it comes to some of their matchups that they have come in head-to-head against divisional opponents, thinking like, hey, it takes into account the fact that with Gastonia's schedule, they could go on a run, beat a bunch of divisional opponents, and climb those standings quick. Does it look probable? No, not at this point. They have a 4% chance of making it to the championship series and a 2% chance of winning it all in 2021. Now, that is it for now, talking about the North Division in the next video, but that is the outlook of the South Division and how the teams in the South Division can or cannot win an Atlantic League championship in 2021. I'm Ryan. I'll be back with another video very shortly. Until then, y'all have a good one.